Good morning and welcome to the Point. Well, it's been another eventful week in Decision 2016. Last week's presidential debate brought out a lot of different issues, but one big point of conversation was that tape that was released of Donald Trump talking in a derogatory way towards women. Well, that came up in the debate. You'll hear what Trump had to say, what Hillary Clinton had to say, and a very surprising move in response, first from Mr. Trump, then Secretary Clinton.
You bragged that you have sexually assaulted women. Do you understand that?
No, I didn't say that at all. I don't think you understood what was said. This was locker room talk. I'm not proud of it. I apologize to my family. I apologize to the American people. Certainly, I'm not proud of it. But this is locker room talk. You know, when we have a world where you have ISIS chopping off heads, where you have, and frankly, drowning people in steel cages, where you have wars and horrible, horrible sights all over, where you have so many bad things happening. This is like medieval times. We haven't seen anything like this, the carnage all over the world. And they look and they see. Can you imagine the people that are frankly doing so well against us with ISIS? And they look at our country and they see what's going on. Yes, I'm very embarrassed by it. I hate it. But it's locker room talk, and it's one of those things. I will knock the hell out of ISIS. We're going to defeat ISIS. ISIS happened a number of years ago in a vacuum that was left because of bad judgment. And I will tell you, I will take care of ISIS.
So, Mr.
And
Trump,
we should get on to much more important things.
You know, with prior Republican nominees for president, I disagreed with them on politics, policies, principles, but I never questioned their fitness to serve. Donald Trump is different. I said starting back in June that he was not fit to be president and commander-in-chief. And many Republicans and independents have said the same thing. What we all saw and heard on Friday was Donald talking about women, what he thinks about women, what he does to women. And he has said that the video doesn't represent who he is, but I think it's clear to anyone who heard it that it represents exactly who he is.
I didn't think I'd say this, but I'm going to say it, and I hate to say it. But if I win, I am going to instruct my Attorney General to get a special prosecutor to look into your situation, because there has never been so many lies, so much deception. There has never been anything like it. And we're going to have a special prosecutor. When I speak, I go out and speak. The people of this country are furious. In my opinion, the people that have been long-term workers at the FBI are furious. There has never been anything like this, where emails and you get a subpoena, and after getting the subpoena, you delete 33,000 emails. And then you acid wash them, or bleach them, as you would say, a very expensive process. So we're going to get a special prosecutor, and we're going to look into it, because you know what? People have been, their lives have been destroyed for doing 1/5 of what you've done. And it's a disgrace. And honestly, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Secretary Clinton, I want to follow up on that. I'm going to let you talk about emails.
Because everything he just said is absolutely false, but I'm not surprised. Really? In the first debate,
the audience needs to calm down here.
I told people that it would be impossible to be fact-checking Donald all the time. I'd never get to talk about anything I want to do and how we're going to really make lives better for people. So once again, go to HillaryClinton.com. We have literally Trump. You can fact check him in real time. Last time at the first debate, we had millions of people fact-checking, so I expect we'll have millions more fact-checking because, you know, it's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
Less than 24 hours after that debate, Hillary Clinton was at Wayne State University talking to a large crowd of mostly college students. She talked to them about how she'd like to control the cost of college, and she also referred to the night before.
We're going to make public colleges like Wayne State tuition-free for working families. if your family makes less than $125,000 a year, it'll be tuition free. If it's over that, it will be debt free. So you only pay what you can afford without going into debt. And if you already have student debt, we will help you refinance it and pay it back, so you never have to pay more than you can afford. To paraphrase my friend Michelle Obama, one of us went high and one of us went low. Donald Trump spent his time attacking when he should have been apologizing.
When we come back, there is more to Decision 2016 than just the presidential race. We'll take a look at one of the 110 state house races you'll be deciding November 8th. That's next. To the Point. Welcome back to the Point. This morning we take a look at the open seat in the 66th district. That's Van Buren County, where Republican Beth Griffin and Democrat Andy Brown will face off. Let's start about this race. You've been in local government, so obviously you have some idea of the kind of problems that you can run into in campaigns, the kind of pressure, the kind of work that it takes. Tell me what it's been like running for the State House, given the big district, the number of people you have to contact, and just the everyday nature of it.
Probably the biggest challenge for me as a local official when I first started was getting used to meeting lots of different people and learning about what's important to them. And representing Antwerp Township, it's about 10,000 people, was such a pleasure. It's kind of bigger and better, but more exciting. I get to meet more business owners, I get to talk to more families, and I get to consider more people's concerns. So for me, it's even more satisfying than being the commissioner. Many things are the same, such as continuing the focus on fiscal responsibility, and I hear many things that are common to both Antwerp Township and to the district as a whole. But I would say my heart is in the right place for community service, and so for me it's been a blessing and it's been exciting, and I can't wait to get to work for the 66th district.
Michigan Democratic Party has made allegations that you were using an email account from a county, and if I misstate it, please tell me, from your county position in some way in coordination with the campaign. What is the thrust of their allegation, and what is your thought on it?
Well, Rick, this is the truth. I send thousands of emails and have sent thousands of emails as a county commissioner. Many of those emails were sent after hours on my personal cell phone, after hours, because I feel it's very important to be responsive to people that ask me questions at any hours of the day or night sometimes. And I am looking into this. I should have been more careful. I'm looking into it to see what I can do to make it right, but that's not my focus right now. What is so very important to me is that unfortunately Democratic Party bosses are making attempts to distract us from the issues. And I'm hearing very clearly from people in my district that they want continued fiscal responsibility. They want to keep taxes low. They want to increase their own household incomes, and that means supporting jobs and supporting job creators in the area. And then finally, they want to support education, just like I do. And so I'm focused on those things.
Has the Secretary of State's office been in contact with your campaign?
Like I said, I've done thousands of emails as a county commissioner, and sometimes I do respond to emails on my personal cell phone. I should have been more careful, and due to campaign laws being very complicated, I am looking into this to make it right. Meanwhile, I am not going to get distracted. I'm going to focus on those issues, such as keeping taxes low, supporting job creators, and then supporting education as well.
Talk about job creators in this area. What is it that job creators need to create, but more important, what is it that job seekers need to have in terms of skills?
This is an interesting question. As a county commissioner, I love talking about job creation and job creators. What I'm hearing from local businesses is they have jobs that they can't fill. Some of those are manufacturing jobs, some of those are jobs with more soft skills. And as a county commissioner, I've been facilitating an ongoing economic development conversation for many years now. And I talked to VBISD, which is the Van Buren County Intermediate School District, and they are job training for the jobs that that they know can be filled in Van Buren County. And what they're hearing is that they also need manufacturing jobs. They need some of those jobs that, like welders, for example, and sales and cosmetology. So I think as a county commissioner, and this is something that I have to bring to the table to work with in the future, I am a positive collaborator. I work together with everyone. I build people up. I am fiscally responsible. And part of that big conversation, I think for me, I understand how important it is for businesses, schools, and local officials to work together to solve the problem of increasing job opportunities for everyone.
When you think of the educational component, one of the big divides between Republicans and Democrats, and has been since time began, or at least since I've been covering politics here in West Michigan, and it's about the same time, is that there's always a difference in what Republicans think is appropriate funding levels, what Democrats think are appropriate funding levels, but even a bigger divide over how that money is spent. Mm-hmm. And I know you haven't done the budget at the state level, but you're aware that the differences in opinion exist out there. What is your thought about how the state should be funding government, funding education in terms of achieving some of the goals you're talking about?
Okay. Funding education is an ongoing issue. It always will be. And I personally am a teacher that has taught 6 years in the classroom. I have administered tests. I've written IEPs, and I have pinched pennies. I've bought my own school supplies, and it is not an easy issue to talk about funding. I also understand as a teacher and as a local official about Proposal A and the fact that Proposal A works unless a school is in declining enrollment. And to me, that's a challenge to look at. And yes, education is multi-layered and complicated, but what I do know is that my experience in the classroom has given me a well-rounded awareness of what teachers deal with. I've spoken to superintendents that are doing a fantastic job with the tools that they have and what their concerns are, that kind of thing. And then as a local official, I see it from the perspective of the fact that, their taxpayer dollars being spent, and there's only so much money to go around. So I see it from multiple perspectives, but I think, again, because I'm not in Lansing yet, and I don't know the guts of what happens when they ultimately decide what's the number, what do they fund, how many different ways can we split the pie. I look forward to being a positive, proactive, and professional member of that discussion moving forward, and I will always advocate for children.
When you think about being one of 110, and we don't know what the outcome of any of these elections is going to be, but we do know that it's possible you end up back in Lansing with a more narrowly drawn chamber, not knowing exactly where those numbers may be drawn. How do you work with the other 109 members to try to achieve something in a body that has not always, and somebody will quickly say, but we pass 95% of the things we pass in a bipartisan way. It's the 5% of the things that really add up to the dollars and cents where the big fights come. How do you bridge that gap? How do you become the person who can bring people together? I think first and foremost, you have to be someone, and this is where my educator background rings true, is you have to be someone that's willing to sit down, be a common sense problem solver, and realize that sometimes you're the smartest one in the room. Sometimes it's working as a team and recognizing that other people have a lot to offer and just listening. Good policy is always good politics, and so many issues, 85-90% of issues, are bipartisan and common sense. I so understand that as a local official. Can't wait to get started. And I think it's very important for people to know that I build people up. I forge relationships. I collaborate positively with other people and groups and businesses. There's a reason why I have just been endorsed by the Michigan Manufacturers Association and the Police Association of Michigan. I'm passionate about serving. I understand that team players need to build people up and not tear people down. And I also understand that good policy is always good politics. So I'm ready to get to work and work really hard, but I also understand, as that local official and teacher and parent, that working smart is just as important as working hard. Tell me about this process. You've been through this, and so you have an idea what it's like, but we're down within the final weeks, and it's been a long campaign. So tell me what your enthusiasm level is.
I'm very energized and excited about how our campaign has been going, and we're down to the part where the finish line is within sight. And I love this part because we've talked to voters, because we started going door to door in April when it was 33 degrees and snowing. And now we're going back to say, I'm back again, and I still am interested in what you want to say to me and what you want for Michigan's future. So I love talking to people, and I love hearing what their concerns are and also what they love about Michigan, because we all agree it's a beautiful state and we are blessed to be here.
What do you hear? I mean, one of the things, and I think we talked about it earlier in the year when we sat down, but one of the things that seems thematic in this election cycle is that there is a lot of unhappiness with government, with status quo, with certainly at the Washington level. And I don't know how much of that is just a reflection then back to Lansing, or how much people are really unhappy with Lansing. But if you just talk about government in general, people seem unhappy. Is that what you hear?
That's what I'm hearing. People are frustrated. They're disappointed with Governor Snyder, and they feel that they've lost some of their own influence. And they pay taxes too, whether they live in senior housing or in a mobile home park, and they want to be heard in Lansing, and that's why I'm running, to ensure that everybody has a voice. And when I talk to voters at the doors, I say, I am going to make government work for all of us, not just the millionaires and billionaires and highfalutin lobbyists, but for the little guy and for the little woman and for people who are struggling and maybe trying to find a college that they can afford for their kids, or trying to start their own business. They want to be included too, and that's why I'm running.
You bring up college, and I want to ask you about this. The funding mechanism for colleges in the state of Michigan has just turned upside down. 30 years ago, maybe longer, about 75% of the cost of higher education was funded by the state. Mm-hmm. About 25% then went to tuition, parents or kids paying their tuition. And college was pretty affordable for most folks if you were going into the mid-70s, even in the early 80s. Over that period of time, that has switched, and now perhaps as little as 20 or 25%, 25 would be high perhaps, for the state funding of those state institutions. And that means that moms, dads, students have to pick up the other 80% or 78 or so, whatever the percentage is. It took a long time for it to happen. It's been over a long period of time. Is there a way to reverse that? And if there is, how would you do it?
I think the state needs to start reinvesting into Michigan, especially when it comes to college education. Like you said, they used to invest more. And when you and I were in college, it was affordable. We're not burdened with loans. We could get by with working on campus or summer jobs and pay for our college that way. But to make Michigan great, we really need to invest in Michigan in several different areas, and starting with our college education to make it affordable for all families. College should not be a luxury item that only rich families can afford. Yesterday I was going door to door in Hartford, and I spoke to a man who was my age, and he just recently finished paying off his college loans at age 55 for an engineering degree. So if that's the burden that people our age are bearing, just think what our kids are faced with. I think Michigan will continue to be stronger if we invest, and if the state invests and makes college education more affordable for everyone.
Part of that dovetails into K-12 education or pre-K-12 education, and not so much the cost, although we can discuss that, but the quality of that education and what we're teaching kids. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about perhaps not everybody needs to go to a 4-year university, but they need skilled trades training because there are jobs open right now. That's not going to help you, if you're just now in school. But the idea is that we need to have our schools in tune with what the jobs of the future are going to be. And I realize that's kind of an interesting balance. Is there a way you think you can do that? Can you get schools? I mean, I know you've got to teach the core, you've got to teach the basics, but you also would like to have some maybe marketable skills in the early part of your education too.
That's a good point. The way the Common Core was designed, that to start with college education and what skills and knowledge our students need for college and work backwards, needs to be transferred to our vocational trades and to prepare our students for what jobs these days need. So if we have some jobs that, for example, in welding or electricians, we need to look at what those basic needs are and then work backwards through high school curriculum. And there's a man in South Haven who owns a very successful business, and he said, I don't need employees with college degrees. I need high school graduates who are good in math. And you brought up a really good point. We don't always need a college education. In fact, when I was going door to door, I met a woman who had a bachelor's degree in biology, and she can't find a job. But if she were a bricklayer, she would be in demand.
The whole idea of educating the workforce and preparing the workforce and higher education is one part of why you're running, as we've discussed. What else interests you if you get a chance to be one of the 110 in Lansing?
Well, we need to invest in public education. And we've really been sort of short-sheeting our public education in Michigan. And part of the reason is because we're not listening to our teachers. The teachers are the experts. They've been in the trenches, they've been in the fields, and we have thousands of Michigan teachers with master's degree in education. They are the experts, and they are the ones we really need to listen to if we want to make public education better. And instead of looking for other options, such as charter schools that are completely different, unsupervised, not oversight, no local government, let's focus on public education that allows all students to be part of the student body.
When you think about this election, we talked a little bit about people's perception of government earlier on. And you and I talked off the air about the length of the campaign and how sometimes the campaigns get long. It appears to me that there's a little bit of campaign fatigue, not for you, not for the candidates, but for the people that are voting. In fact, I had somebody running in a different district say, yeah, when we go to doors now, they're pretty much like, we made up our mind, move on. It's almost like voters are tired of this cycle. Do you get some of that?
A little bit. But it's a great part of living in a democracy that we can get the word out. And I know people are tired of what's coming in the mailbox every day, but that is a great freedom of speech. It's great that we can educate our voters to what's going on in different campaigns across the state. And I think that they may be a little battle weary, but that is a great part of being in a democracy.
We're back with more To the Point in just a moment. We are completely out of time. I hope you'll join us next Sunday, 10 a.m. on Wood TV for To the Point.